Imagine that you earn an annual salary of $252,450. Upon hearing this number, you might think that you're paid fairly, if not rather handsomely. However, when you take into account the fact that your highest paid male counterpart, who does the same job you do, commands an annual salary of $51,910,000, a figure over 200 times what you make, your salary doesn't seem quite as fair anymore, does it? This scenario isn't a hypothetical either. Rather, it's a real-world comparison between the salaries of Jackie Young, the highest paid player in the WNBA, and Stephen Curry, the highest paid player in the NBA. Additionally, this issue isn't unique to American sporting leagues. In 2022, FIFA awarded $440 million in prize money for its men's tournament, including a payment of $42 million to the winning nation of Argentina, while its women's tournament awarded $150 million in prize money and just $4.3 million to the winning nation of Spain.
The wage gap between men and women is especially prevalent in the sports industry, which routinely sees female athletes earn a significantly lower wage than their male counterparts, their concerns cast aside by the majority of sports fans. How did we get here, and what can we do to counteract this?
I'm Rishik Shrivastava.
And I'm Catherine Ayafi.
And we'll be discussing this on this episode of Wage for Women. In order to get a better understanding of this issue from someone who's personally affected by it, we decided to interview Danja Collins, a member of the Santa Clara University women's basketball team. Here's an excerpt from our interview. I think that society tends to pay men and women differently.
Yes, men and women do get paid very differently for the sports that they play. I think by comparison, often women make just barely enough or less than enough to have a living wage, so they often do other things in order to supplement the playing that they do. So they'll either go play overseas or they'll go do other jobs and things and kind of supplement.
So like how
pay.
WNBA players often have to play overseas during the off season to supplement their income.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then next question: what do you think equal pay for athletes across genders looks like?
I think that there is a difference between equal pay and just giving everyone the same amount versus just giving someone what they have earned. I think sometimes it's hard when you know that there's people at the top getting paid in the WNBA that are getting paid more than the players actually are, and so it's hard when you know that the system isn't set up the best to pay its players. So I think that there is a component of support that men's sports can lend to women's sports, but also kind of a rewrite of how we kind of disperse the money, I guess.
Exactly. However, in spite of everything we've introduced, detractors still state that female athletes are paid fairly compared to male athletes simply because there isn't as big of an audience for women's sports as there is for men's sports. However, the LA Times stated in 2022 that viewership for the WNBA Finals grew 15% from the previous year, when almost all other leagues were experiencing significant decline in viewership. With women's basketball actually on the rise in terms of viewership, there's no reason why female athletes ought to be paid so little in comparison to their male counterparts.
It's an unfortunate and tragic reality that even today, gender discrimination still exists, as evidenced by the gender pay gap. Whether that's in sports or other fields, we see that women's athletics just aren't as invested in or valued as men's athletics. So is equal pay in sports such a far-fetched dream? Maybe not, because in England the Football Association rewards men and women the same match fees and bonuses. The same applies to Ireland, Wales, and even the United States. We see that some steps are being made to strive for equality among the values we assign to men's and women's sports. Perhaps we can, as a society, continue to work towards a more just and equitable future, where we can value and acknowledge the dignity of both male and female athletes. This has been an episode of Wage for Women.
I'm Rishik Shrivastava.
And I'm Catherine Ayafi,
Signing off.